Today, I'm excited to reconnect with someone I've known for over 20 years and whose path has taken him from Olds College to one of the leading international schools in Asia. Curtis Hegge is an educator, coach, and an innovation leader whose approach is shaped by sport, culture, and a commitment to helping people grow. From shop class to EdTech, from rugby pitches to classrooms, his journey has forged a leadership style built on trust, humility, and psychological safety. I am excited to dig into how those experiences have shaped the way he leads today. Curtis, great to have you. Let's jump right in. How you doing?
Hey, Randy. I'm great, and you? It's good to see you.
I am very good. It has been 27 years, I do believe, give or take a year or two, since you and I last connected. We are, 1998, class of 98 graduates from Olds College Turf Management. But your journey has been significantly different from mine.
A little bit, yeah. I've had a varied experience.
Yeah. So what? Walk us through just where you're at today, and sure. Cole's Notes version on how you got there.
Sure. So I'm at the International School of Macao, obviously Macao, China, and so I've been teaching internationally roughly for 16 to 18 years now. I was in Canada for a couple of years, and we can get to that later. I was teaching, my first year teaching was in Calgary at Cardinal Newman Junior High, which I think has changed now, the name. It was in down Mackenzie, and I met a guy when I was teaching there who was like, "Why are you teaching in Calgary? You should be teaching internationally." And I didn't even know what that meant. And so we had a beverage one night, and he kind of explained it to me, and he's like, "Oh, that seems kind of cool. Sure, I'll go and see if there's any school that might be interested in me." So I flew to Queen's University, and that's at a job fair there every year for new teachers. And I went and interviewed the people, and I'm like, okay, well, the interviews are fun, and that was great. I don't expect to hear from anyone. And I had 7 offers to go work in schools around the world. Yeah. Anyway, the quick version of this is it was between Syria and Dubai, the 2 choices I was interested in. One was a UN school in Syria. I made the right choice and chose Dubai. Syria obviously went a bit sideways a couple years after that. And I spent 8 years in Dubai working at a school there.
Crazy. And then from there, the journey kind of continued, and we'll touch on some of that. And now you're in Macau. Right.
Yeah. And I said to myself when I started this international life that China probably wasn't on my radar. And to me, it just shows you never say never, because here I am. Yeah. But I didn't have a huge desire. But the funny fact, now that I've been here, what a wonderful place it is. Man, there's so many things to see and do. And there's so many amazing people to meet. So it's been really an amazing experience, even though it wasn't necessarily top of my list.
Yeah, and I think what I love about this, Curtis, is you take 2 guys roughly the same age, and both had a passion for golf, had a passion for turf management, and then you just see the directions that have gone. And we were kind of talking before. You followed me a little on LinkedIn, I followed you, and you see this journey. And a big part of your journey not only was the educational side, but also the sports side, right? Like huge passion for golf and rugby. And, when you made that switch into international teaching, did you typically what you hear is, "Oh, I'm going to teach, English," right? Was that your entry point into it?
No, I went, I'm a shop teacher. So I was a CTS teacher, at U of A is where I got my degree. And then I went, and the school in Dubai, they wanted to open up a CTS offering, but they didn't have anyone yet to do that. And so I started actually at elementary technology. So it was an IT teaching technology to elementary kids for a whole year. And all I had was Microsoft Office and really bad internet. It was rough, to say the least. It was a very eye-opening experience, but resiliency, I'd say, was a learning curve that year. Going, man, everything would go sideways. You go get observed by your supervisor, and the internet would shut off. or the computers would just turn off, and you just roll with it. And so I got a really good opportunity to learn how to pivot in life. But so I did IT, and then actually I moved into physical education the year after that in Dubai. So I did 1 year IT and then moved into physical education, and then ran the physical education department for 7 years at the school I was at. And that kind of opened the door into more of the sport side of my life. And I ran with that for quite a few years, actually. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that also shaped a huge part of sport has shaped you in general into a lot of your leadership styles, right? But now you're getting that opportunity not just to play, but now you're mentoring and coaching. How, when we think about leadership, Curtis, how did sport play such an active role in shaping your style and how you lead today?
Oh, it's everything of who I am has come from sport in my leadership. I've said this many times to people I've worked with and who I've coached, and I believe in service leadership. I'm not the person who is the spear point of a team or organization. I want to support and do whatever I can to help that group be successful. And I hate the limelight. Like after games, coaching rugby, the coach would always have to stand up and say a few words. And I always wanted my players to say it. I wanted my captain. I wanted my vice captain. I wanted the best player that day to stand up and he can talk and share that. I wasn't the person that needed the accolades. And I just look at sport and leadership go hand in hand. Like I've played individual sport of golf and then rugby, which don't typically always intertwine all that well. But rugby, it's the ultimate team sport. You're not allowed to stay in a bad space when you're playing. The team won't allow it. The good teams, right? You have troubles where you make a mistake on the field. If you notice and watch international rugby or other even local games, you'll see teammates come over and tap. Like volleyball, same idea, where you make a mistake and the other team tries to help shake it off for you, right? And so that really builds confidence because your teammates have your back. Like one of the things I've always said in coaching rugby was that you have to play for each other. And when someone can't do their job, you need to step in to fill their role and not turn at them and start yelling and saying, hey, you need to do this. Instead of turn it into like, I can help you now that you're struggling at the moment. And then you pick up. And when I struggle, you're going to help me. And that's the way I've always wanted to lead and have my teams play.
Did you find, and I love that. I just had a guy in a meeting we were just having here at work where, we're actually Picture View golf course doing an irrigation reno right now. And the guy digging the holes, it sounds so simplistic, but he was like, well, yeah, I wanted to make sure I dug the hole right. So Wyatt had a good hole to backfill, right? And it caught me because I've worked with a lot of guys over the years where they don't care what kind of hole they dig, right? They don't care about the guy coming behind them. And so in that moment, I was like, we're starting something here, right? It got me excited. So when you're trying to get that across to young men, possibly women, like, do you get pushback on that? Because it's almost a different way of thinking. Like, I have confused a lot of people when I try to bring that same servant leadership message forward, right?
Oh, definitely. A lot of people, especially the alpha types on teams, that they might be the best player on the team, or they might be very strong, or they're up and coming, really high quality players. There can be hard to reach, I find. Not all, but I found in the past and I've explained to them saying that, like, if you help others, they'll help you, and we're all going to become better. Like, we'll create a better product on the field and off the field if we all work for each other, right? And also, too, the flip side of that is that I also will say in later moments when I'm coaching, but also don't be that guy. Don't be the guy that allows someone else to step in your shoes, right? Work hard. Don't allow people to take your role. I mean, so it's not like it's just we'll serve, and somebody else will do my job for me. I also want to be the guy that says, no, I don't need the help. I'll always help. right?
Yeah,
And
you
look
want
at
to own
that. That
the
to
role
me
you're in.
is right. But again, sometimes we just can't. Like you say in rugby, you've been tackled, you're out of the play, or like you've ran 200 or 300 meters in succession and you're exhausted, and someone needs to move into your role for a while. And I look at that, and that can goes across all areas of life. Like that's not just a rugby field. As a teacher, I see it often where I'm very lucky in my job that I get to support staff. And so the role I do here is quite a bit different than some schools in Canada where I get to go in and I get to support staff. And there's times where I've worked with staff. They're like, listen, I got nothing today. And I'm like, no problem. I'm happy to take your class for you. And I will do the heavy lifting for this one. And then there's other times where I've come in and I've fully said, listen, like I'm here, but I'm barely here. And can you support me? And luckily we've built that relationship and that trust that we've talked about that we can allow for those things.
Is that a cultural thing within the institution you're in now, or is that something that has come in with some of the things that you've brought with you, or and is that different from where you are today versus what a North American school would look like?
That's a great question. I would say this school I came in and that was already a conscious area of the school where I noticed that immediately coming in, because I've only been in this school now for 3 months, where teachers support teachers very well, and it's been really, really refreshing where we all share resources, if it comes to photocopying or whatever it is, we try to help each other, which is brilliant. I thrive in this environment. But I have worked in schools where that wasn't the case, and it made it very isolating and very difficult to stay motivated and excited about education. In regards to teaching in Canada, I think that the teachers that I worked with, luckily, both in Calgary and Red Deer, have been incredibly supportive. When I came back to Canada, as I had some family difficulties, I taught in Red Deer, and the school I was in, like they were incredibly supportive. Like I was asked to teach a math course. I wasn't that good at math. I love math, but I wasn't that good at it when I was in school, and I was asked to teach grade 10 math. And the math teacher went, here's the whole course for you. Let me know if you need to sit down and review some concepts. I know it's been a while. She was just the most amazing human being in the world. And I found that to be true for a lot of teachers. I have experienced a few teachers that hold that egg and hold their curriculum. Yeah. Like, I've worked on this curriculum, it's mine. But that's not normally the case, I don't think, with education.
Yeah, that's good. Obviously, Alberta right now is going through a big, the teacher in the province aren't exactly seeing eye to eye, and it's nice to get the perspective of somebody in the education system. I know you're not here, but you have been here, right?
Right.
And it is an admirable profession, because I can tell you it's one I could never function in. So, and it's getting harder and harder. Are you seeing some of the, if we think about the education system right now, some of the challenges, if we think about Alberta, a lot of talk about class size, everything like that. Have you seen that consistently throughout the world, or what does education support look like in the different countries you've been in?
Well, I work in a different education system. I do work for really privileged students. So like our tuition, like I've worked at schools in China that the tuition is $70,000 a student per year. And so that brings a different client. And so with that, the expectation obviously is class sizes have to be smaller, but also the schools can afford to, because their operating budget is so much higher. The school I'm at here, it's a mixture of it's a lower price point, but there still is a high price point on the tuition. And unfortunately, I don't know off the top of my head. But so with the expectation of a private school comes lower class sizes. But the school doesn't get funded. Like both schools I worked at were nonprofit, so they don't take any profit out of the school. All dollars go back into the students. But in saying that, the expectation is that it's lower class sizes, so there's more support.
Right. And then I'm assuming, given that it is private and, in the case of tuition, the expectations probably are not just lower class sizes, but, turning out top end students as well. And are you seeing that in the places you've been?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. In most schools that I've been to, the kids are going, and there's a real expectation that students are going to high end universities afterwards. Like the one thing I do as a shop teacher and a person who's in design and working with my hands, I try to tell students, hey, you can become a pretty amazing carpenter, and you can become an artist, and you can work with your hands and make a very good living. And the parents typically are like, no, they're going to university to become a business person or a doctor or whatever. And so it's usually always a bit of a fun, enjoyable conversation I have with parents that I say, there's lots of opportunities outside of the traditional university route, but sometimes that falls a bit on deaf ears here.
After you drop 50 to 70 in a year,
right.
Yeah, I could see where they're going. Right. It is funny though, because I just read an article where they said the next level of millionaires in the world are going to be plumbers and electricians, right? AI is going to be able to take over a lot of these other roles, but as I needed last night, someone's got to fix my toilet. No robot's going to do that, at least not yet. But so you teach shop. So this is interesting. I didn't know that little bit about you, obviously. So you had a little bit of that skill set when you and I were going to Olds together. How old are you now, actually, if you don't mind me asking, a little bit off topic?
I'm 48 years old. Yeah. I don't know where it went.
Okay. All right. So I figured I was a few years older than you. So where did that passion come from? What was family life like for you that it helped you lead to where you've ended up? And second part of that, I guess, is how has it been challenging living across the world for 16 to 18 years?
So family life growing up, my dad was Mr. Fix-It. He could fix almost anything, and if he couldn't fix it, he'd certainly try before he called somebody to fix it for him. And so we always had a shed, and we always had a garage to hammer nails and screws and fix stuff. And we had motorbikes growing up, and we had, my parents really believed in a active outdoor life and education for us. I rode a snowmobile at a young age, and I had to learn how to warm it up properly and check the oil and fill the gas, and at a very young age. And so if you want to use this equipment, that's your responsibility. And so my dad gave me an opportunity to be very curious about how to build things. I remember we were kids and we moved into a new house, and Dad was building a fence, and so were we. And my dad, I'm sure, took a few boards back off that we had ruined and wrecked and whatever, and he fixed them again. And, and also, I've got 3 brothers and a sister, and we were all active and big people. And I know that I drove a few golf balls through the back fence boards that had to get replaced, and, normal kid stuff that growing up in Canada. And so I was really fortunate that I got to use all the tools I wanted. I was never told, no, we don't have time for that. Yeah. I had a pretty amazing childhood that way when it came to learning about how to use my hands to create. And so that obviously it's an instilled passion of mine. And so even now, I'm working with students, on building some projects, and I still have a hard time not trying to take over the student project. I can see where you're making a mistake, and just let me do it, and it'll look great. And so I tell my students too that they say, Mr. Hegge, please stop doing my work for me. Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's fun. Yeah.
Take a step back, please. That's a perfect segue actually into allowing failure to drive success. Right. And it sounds like that's a big part of your life, right? Embracing that mistakes that we are going to make is actually going to make us better down the road, and then bringing that message forward to your kids.
Without a doubt. Yeah, I can think of many instances where the failure that I've had has been a way bigger life lesson than any success that I've ever really had in my life. And I don't enjoy the process of failure. There's a quote, and I don't know who said it, but comfort and growth do not coexist. And so I love that quote. I've had it on my wall for many years, and no one enjoys it, but everybody learns from it. And I love those moments. Well, afterwards.
Do you find it harder to exist in those moments if you're the one making the mistake or watching others make a mistake? Oh,
others. I have built my resilience now at this point in my life. Obviously, when we were younger and teens and 20s, where our resilience was as thin as paper, those were hard moments and really tough times. You know, like I've got nieces who are in their teens now, and they're going through some really tough moments of their life, as all teenagers do. And that's hard because I want to give them all the advice, and I want to tell them, hey, you're going to be okay, and everything's going to be fine, and this is how you fix that. And then you kind of have to shrug your shoulders and just listen, you know. And I think that there's a lot of power in that. It's just listening to somebody who's having some struggles and not try to fix.
Yeah, and I think as somebody that's coach sport and teaching essentially is coaching too, I love how you said it. It's about asking questions and listening, right? It's guiding. You know, I'm with you. You know, right. You're 48. I'm 51. You know, I've got a couple kids I try to tell what to do sometimes, and I can assure you it doesn't go very well. You know, but you want to be able to, you know, it can be a grind, that's for sure. But just guiding this next generation through listening and questioning and not giving them the easy way out by giving them the answer, right?
Right.
What do you do intentionally to bring that into your classrooms?
Oh, I think that, you know, like I've now been teaching for 18 years, and like teaching for this long, I see those moments coming, right? A lot of times I can think of like when kids have to use machines for the first time, like especially like power tools, band saws and table saws and those kind of things. Those are extremely stressful moments. And a lot of times I'll see kids' hands shaking because they understand the dangers, inherent dangers that come with those machines. The cool part of it all, the amazing part, is when they succeed and you see the joy from them and they see the confidence build. And that to me is why we do this job. It's not to get them to understand. Again, I'm not an English teacher, you know, and I give kudos to English and humanities teachers everywhere for doing their role. But like to improve sentence structure is in my bag. What is my bag is when I see a kid that goes from I can't and I don't want to going, this I can do.
Yeah, and there's something really special about being able to do that with something you can touch, see, and feel, right? Like it's, you know, that's what the coolest thing is about whether it's shop or, you know, horticulture, right? It's something tangible. There's an immediate win.
Totally, right. Kinesthetic learning has been proven time and time again that it's one of the best ways to connect with kids and pretty much anybody. Like there's adult pottery classes for a reason. It's because it's working with hands and having a conversation. You know, it's not necessarily about the pottery. Like the crappy cup you make at the end isn't the reason why you're there. It's that again, with playing with earth, using your hands, learning a new skill. I think that, and from a student point of view, we have so many kids who are on devices all the time and they are inundated with technology. And I love technology, but I love it when I have a class of grade 12 students, actually just this week, that are building simple dioramas, and they're going way above and beyond what we expected. And we could walk out of the classroom the whole time. We don't need to be there because they are totally engaged. And that's when magic
they're just locked in
school.
One of the, I can't remember who I said this to, but I associate exciting things in my life with smell. You know, and I'll I'll be really curious if you don't agree with this. If you walk into a shop and smell sawdust, it triggers something, right? You walk out on a golf course, the fresh smell of cut grass, right? And I think somewhat we're missing, and I try to get that across to my kids, is like you can often figure out what you love by the smells that excite your senses, right? So for me, it was always, I grew up with two parents who were green thumbs, right? So it was the smell of the dirt. It was the smell of the cut grass. Maybe it wasn't that exciting Saturday morning as a teenager, but I got over that eventually.
Right.
But those, like, you walk into a shop every single day and it's the sawdust hitting the nostrils, right?
Right. Yeah. And you're totally right. Like I can think of, actually, I worked at a golf course in Red Deer, and I can still think of walking into the shop and smelling grease. The mechanic was right by the door, and he always had a grease gun out, and the smell of grease, I can picture that shop perfectly because of that smell.
Yep. Yeah, it frames it in our mind forever, right? Do you have any smells?
Totally.
Now I'm curious because I have a smell I hate. Do you have any smells you hate where it's like PTSD moment?
Oh, good question. Not off the top of my... Oh, actually, you know what? Diesel fuel. I unfortunately had to do road construction for a summer, and diesel fuel was everywhere, and I was covered in diesel fuel all of the time. Diesel fuel would be my no-go.
That's the PTSD trigger. Yeah, mine's concrete. I spent a summer with my dad jackhammering the Sate Parkade. And to this day, the smell of concrete just triggers. Hate it. So, hey, Curtis, you have a number of influences here. You're a big avid reader. I can see, right? You sent us some notes prior to coming on here, and I actually did laugh because we literally checked all the same boxes. How has, reading some of these influential leaders like Simon Sinek, Adam Grant, Brene Brown, Amy Edmondson, how have they really helped you shape into the person you are today?
I've stumbled onto all of these authors. I'll give a shout out to Vince Fowler. He's in Calgary. He's a business coach, brilliant guy. And I played rugby with him, and he was a guy that got me really involved with Simon Sinek. And he gave me the what's your why? So he went and did some training with Simon, and then he did the why with me, and he frustrated me beyond belief for about 10 minutes. And afterwards, the clarity that came from it was incredible. Yeah. Incredible. And so I really then went, who is this guy? I need to read all of his stuff. And like The Leaders Eat Last hit a huge chord with me, obviously, with service leadership. I watched his TED Talk that 3/4 of the world has watched, and I was just in awe with him. Like I've said to many people, I've got a pretty large man crush on Simon Sinek for just how his leadership is and how he can speak with people, and and just how he can get to vulnerability so quickly with people. And I think that's just a huge gift.
It is an incredible thing. Like I'm the same way with him. I'm not sure I have as big of a man crush as you. I've got some other ones around, but even if you listen to his podcast, he just his ability to connect with people is truly a gift. You're right. And I think that's what makes great leaders, right? Is what does that connection look like? And the thing I love about it, Curtis, I think is, I don't know when your journey started. Mine came pretty late in life, but it does go to show that we never stop learning, right? Like, when did you really start to dive into this end of, learning for you, making yourself better?
So I guess I've been reading all of my life, and I started obviously with The Shining. My brother gave me at high school. I wasn't an amazing reader, and that allowed me to kind of connect to how powerful words can be. But I'd say that I read through my 20s. I'd say probably into my mid 30s is when I said, I think there's more for understanding. Like I think I've always had a pretty intuitive, or I guess not even intuitive. I'd say more. I've had amazing coaches in my life who've given me the tools that I could use up to the point where I was at in my 30s. And then I realized that I wanted to understand more, and it's again, like I mentioned about Vince, he really opened my mind to a few things, and then I need to know more about this. And so I bought that book. And then Adam Grant and Malcolm Gladwell's books, they fell into my lap. And I think I read Malcolm Gladwell's book in an afternoon and reread it a week later, like, because it was such an amazing understanding of the world and obviously his view of the world. Like the story of the hockey players that were all January, February, March babies. I had no idea, never heard of that, and that really it was crazy. And so then more of the stories, and then I read, of course, all of his books, and those really fascinated me. And then Adam Grant's books. I remember I was reading them on a beach in Thailand, where people are, running around the water, and I'm sitting on a lounger reading his books, and so that was just where I couldn't get enough. And so now I'm listening to both of their podcasts. Brene Brown, oh God, that one story that she told when she was speaking in front of people and talking about the research that she'd done on women. And when that gentleman stood up and said, well, what about men? And she said, well, I don't do research on that. And he goes, isn't that convenient? I remember it floored her to the point where she realized that she had to support both men and women. And I remember just that vulnerability and like her openly admitting that she needed to make some changes so that she could support more people. And I went, wow, like that just, it really resonated with me. And so then I went, okay, well, what can I do in my life? And so I've coached both men and women in golf and rugby. Luckily schools are co-ed, and I love it when I get to work with everybody and all kinds, like even to the point where I think earlier in the podcast, we were talking about kinesthetic learning. And I always loved coming to meetings where you sit down, we're talking about students' needs, and there'd be like, oh yeah, this student, man, is struggling in my class. I'm like, really? One of my absolute best in class. And they're like, what's the difference? I'm like, hands. They're doing stuff with their hands and they're learning that way and they're able to express themselves the way they want to. And that to me is the difference. And not everybody is going to be an academic, and there's people who learn even like the fidgets and those kind of things are quite powerful for students because it's just a matter of connecting mind, brain and hand together to learn.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just walking into the Medicine Hat Tigers game the other night and a kid dropped his fidget spinner. And my son Elliot had one too, right? And at the time, they were very much viewed as, oh, well, the kid's got ADHD, right? So he just needs something to do. But I like the way it's that connection, creating that connection between mind and body, right?
And I think that unfortunately we've lost that a bit in society, where we don't grow up on farms as much and we don't grow up on acreages. We grow up in smaller and smaller units of living, and so there's not the space to explore. And so without that, like climbing trees and like, man, we climbed trees and broken arms were a pretty normal thing growing up, and what happened? Oh, I fell out of the tree. Oh, okay. Well, all right. Where I think that is starting to lose it a bit in society. And I think that the connection, that hand connection, that understanding proprioception and understanding our bodies for learning, is such a powerful thing to use.
Well, and really, I look at it like, whether it's shop or whether it's physical education, like you really get to touch on two of probably the most impactful things when you talk about using your hands, right. Using your mind, creativity, moving your body, body awareness, right? What an amazing space to be in. And I find it really interesting because, again, I kind of started off at the beginning, which is, did you go to teach English? No, I actually went to teach shop, right? And yeah, that is such a cool journey to be able to take into a different part of the world. Oh,
and the ability that I've learned from different cultures. Like I was in the Middle East for 8 years and learning about the culture of the locals there. What warm and wonderful people, and they're really about family and connection, and then I moved to Malaysia, and again, another just amazing place for connectivity, with people. It's been such an amazing experience to get out of the traditional path of education. And also the experiences I would just never experience in Canada. We briefly talked about this, is that, I got to caddy on the European tour with golf. And, I've been to F1 races, and I've been to multiple, I walked when Tiger Woods was playing in Dubai, I walked beside him shoulder to shoulder for 4 or 5 holes because nobody was there. And like that kind of experience, like in the US, it would be 15 people deep. You wouldn't get anywhere near the guy. Where, I think he actually even chatted with me for a hole, asking me a question, are you going to follow me the whole way? I'm like, yeah, I think so. I'm going to watch the best golfer in the world golf,
Yeah, I think I'll do that. Yeah. Yeah. And I loved your story at the beginning when you were saying, with the caddying, like, number one, as a golfer, incredible experience, but you got to play 9 holes, you said, with Phil Mickelson, at that time, probably the second best golfer in the world.
And that was just an amazing experience. It was a friend of mine who worked for Butch Harmon in Dubai, and he and I were really close friends, and he qualified for the Abu Dhabi championship, and he said, "Do you want to caddy for me?" And yep, 100% I do. And I remember walking into my boss's office and saying, "I've got an experience to caddy on the European tour. I'm taking the next couple of days off." And he's like, "Well, can we discuss this?" I'm like, "Not really. If I don't need to get paid, I'm fine with that. But this is an experience I can't say no to." And Phil Mickelson was just the most lovely guy in the world. We had a chat. He loved Canada. He loved Lake Louise skiing. He talked about how nice people were in Canada and stuff. And it was just a really, really amazing experience. And not only that, but also to see, like, coming back to the leadership and mindset of it, the mindset of golfers was incredible. So, like, I got to hear a lot of the caddy golfer interactions. And, like, most caddies and most golfers, what I heard when I was there, they play 6 3-hole rounds. So they're playing 3 holes of golf. So they're not playing 18 holes. They're thinking, okay, in the next 3 holes, I want to be 1 under after the next 3 holes. Or I want to be even. The next 3 holes are going to be really difficult. And so they're not looking at a round of golf. Again, the experience I had was they didn't look at it as 18 holes of continuous golf. Okay, the next few holes, we need to be here. And so I found that to be fascinating because, of course, in my golf, after I get a double on 6, I'm like, well, my round's over. Might as well crack a beverage. And so that's changed, and that really changed my viewpoint. I don't always do it, but I'm talking at elite levels. That's an amazing thought.
Well, but what a great thing to bring into other aspects of life, right? Like, if there's something to be said for segmenting, whether you're at work, in personal life,
right.
In all things we do, one of the biggest challenges, I think, is everybody's looking end destination, how am I going to get to the end? Right. And we ignore the fact that it's, what's your next step?
Right. A quote my father and mother both have said, and I'm sure they don't own this quote, is that how do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time, and sometimes we think we need to stuff that thing down our throats. And that to me comes with experience. A teenager wants to eat the whole thing, whereas you get a few years older, you realize that, enjoy the chewing.
Yeah, exactly. 1 bite at a time. Yeah.
Right.
Curtis, what, if you were to pick your favorite place that you've lived and worked so far, where would that be?
Oh, that gets asked a lot. The other question is, your favorite country. I've been fortunate. I've been to 38 countries I've traveled to now in my life. But lived and work, it's really hard. I lived in Switzerland for 6 months, after Malaysia. And Switzerland is very much like Canada, where there's mountains, it's gorgeous, it's beautiful. It's the most expensive place on the planet, I think. But I'd say for just quality of life and enjoyment and the ability to move around, Malaysia, although as a big man, heat, I had a sweat towel with me at all times. It was still one of the most beautiful places I've ever experienced. Yeah.
Nice. What, as you move forward into this next aspect of life, you're 3 months in at Macao now. What does the next year look like for you? Like, what are some of the things that are energizing you and driving you to further change who Curtis Hegge is?
Right. That's a great question. I've been contemplating that for a while, that exact question. I'm doing a master's in educational technology. I was going to do my master's in leadership, but I realized that I don't want to be a principal. I want to work with students. I want to be in the classroom and working with kids. That's my passion. I think the people who become administrators are worth their weight in gold. It's just not my thing. I want to be able to connect with kids. So finishing off my master's, I think I want to continue understanding more of what technology and how it can impact education and learning in the next few years. Because I think that obviously with AI, we are going to see a tremendous change in how education happens, how it's taught, how we're assessing. There's lots of things happening there. And I want to be in those conversations. I'm really fascinated by that. I think that we're seeing a massive educational swing. I think universities and schools are all going to see a different program in the next 5 to 10 years. So I think that's a big path I'm going to be on. But also, I think I'm not saying I'm middle-aged, but I want to make sure I'm enjoying my life. I really want to I love working with kids, and I want to make sure I cherish those moments. Weirdly, the conversation of what am I going to do when I retire, it's 15-ish years away. And I kind of want to push that off to the side. But I know that's a conversation I need to start thinking about. But I want to make sure that I'm enjoying what I'm doing now. And I think that I'm so fortunate where I'm at right now and with the school I'm at to be here for quite a few years, I think. Yeah.
Curtis, I have a feeling that, retirement from teaching may be in your future. I don't think retirement from leading is going to be in your future. It's just one of those things, the doors you've likely kicked open, you don't even know yet. Right. And those opportunities are going to present themselves when all of a sudden Curtis is available. So. Right.
Yeah. I've been really fortunate in the fact that there's lots of amazing educational conferences all over the world in Asia. And so I speak regularly at several technological conferences about education. And they're fun. They're so much fun I like presenting. But also, too, I love when, especially a new speaker comes in and doesn't know if what they're going to present is eye-opening. And then people come out of that experience going, that's one of the most amazing things. And I can't wait to take those ideas and put them into my practice. And I always love having that conversation with those new presenters afterwards. And they're like, I didn't realize my message was going to be so powerful.
It's funny, isn't it, when, whether you're presenting or sitting in the audience, but if you're watching the audience when someone's presenting or on stage yourself, and you see the eyes open a little bit more and the head nod, and that connection's been made, and, now they're leaving with something, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And again, that to me is such a fun experience.
Absolutely. So, Curtis, I know your day is just getting started over in Macau. I think it's just rolled past 8:30 in the morning, so I don't want to keep you much longer here, but I want to ask you just one other question. If you were to give advice to those young teachers, coming out of education right now that have a thought of working internationally, what would you say to them, knowing what your journey has looked like today?
Do it. Yeah, that's the simple version. But realize it comes with some caveats. You asked a question earlier and I didn't touch on it, but family. I've got a large family and I've missed a lot of Christmases. I've missed a lot of birthdays, Thanksgivings. I've had to give up and I've had to sacrifice. And there's been some really tough days with that, where you get a Zoom call and you got 25 family members in a house and you're not there. Those are hard days, right? But on the flip side, I mentioned I've been to 38 countries. I've met so many amazing people all over the world. I've been able to walk down the streets in Bangkok and I hear my name being yelled from across the street. And it's either an ex-colleague or an old student. And they're so excited to see me, and that part is powerful, and even getting to understand different cultures. I think that the more we understand each other and the more we can have a conversation with somebody, the less we can be frustrated with them. Hate only happens in a silo. It rarely happens when you actually have a true conversation with somebody and understand them more. And so I've been really fortunate to have met so many amazing people in different cultures, even with technology, languaging. I've had conversations with people here in China and we don't speak the same language, but through translation apps, we get to find out about each other. And it really is a pretty powerful and profound experience to find out that no matter where you go, everyone's kind of the same.
Yeah. And I think that just goes to your leadership style, which is through giving, right? Giving of yourself and approaching every moment like there's an opportunity to do that in. So what a perfect way to put a bow on it, which is, a little bit of a feel good moment too about the world can be a better place, but it starts with us, right? And how we are going to interact. So yeah, that's awesome. Curtis, I want to thank you for your time this morning. Honestly, it was so much fun. We've kind of been back and forth on LinkedIn, but I have a feeling we're going to connect a little bit more in the future here. It's been fun to watch your journey, and thanks for your time today. Yeah.
Thank you. And I really enjoyed your podcast. I'm one of the major subscribers now, and I continue moving forward. I look forward to listening more of it. And also, I'd love to come back on because I know that we've only scratched the surface of this conversation. And then when I'm back in Canada, we'll have to meet up for a beverage.
Absolutely, we will. Sounds good, sir.
Yeah.
All right. You have a great day out there.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay. Bye-bye.